was a 16-year-old boy known for his brilliance. His classmate admires him for his quick intellect, his ability to solve complex problems, and the way he excelled in every subject without breaking a sweat. He was a quiet, humble boy who lived with his hardworking single mother in a small neighborhood. His dreams were big. He wanted to become a doctor and help people. Andrew had no reason to believe that his future wasn't as bright as his potentials. But life, as it often does, had other plans. There was a family that lived next door to Andrew's house. The Johnsons were quiet, somehow reclusive family. The father, Mr. Johnson, was a man of few words, and his children, two boys, Mark and Luke, were much older than Andrew and didn't attend school anymore. They had both dropped out after struggling with their studies, and neither of them showed any interest in academics. They spent most of their time hanging around the house, and their parents seemed resigned to the idea that their children would never amount to much. Mr. Johnson harbored a deep, unspoken jealousy towards Andrew. The boy's achievement was a constant reminder of his own children's failures. And as much as he tries to hide it, the envy grows inside him like a festering wound. Every time he saw Andrew come home with another report card filled with A's, he felt a surge of bitterness. It was not just envy, but a desire to see Andrew fail, to bring him down to the level of his own children. One evening, as Andrew played outside in his front yard, Mr. Johnson approached him. His words was low and filled with a strange warmth. "Andrew, you're such a smart boy," he said, trying to mask the venom in his words. "You know, intelligence can be a curse sometimes. People expect so much from you, don't they? They always want more." Andrew, naive as he was, nodded. "I just want to help my mom, and I want to become a doctor someday." Mr. Johnson's eyes gleamed with malice. "I understand, but you know, sometimes it takes more than just a brain to get ahead in this world. Sometimes you need a little help." Andrew's bow. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing," Mr. Johnson said with a knowing smile. "Just be careful who you trust. People who shine too brightly sometimes get burned." Little did Andrew know that conversation was the beginning of a nightmare he could not escape. It wasn't long after that incident that Andrew began to notice something strange happening to him. At first, it was small. He would see something in a store, a shining watch, or a toy he would never have been able to afford, and without thinking, he would pick it up and slip it into his pocket. The sensation was new. A rush of excitement followed by guilt, but a feeling that was strangely addictive. It was as if his mind had been hijacked, as if the brilliance-driven Andrew was being replaced by someone else. Someone who could no longer resist the urge to take what wasn't his. The first time he stole something, a pack of gum from a local shop, he barely noticed it. But the next time it was a small toy from the corner store, and then a wallet from a man who was distracted on his phone. Each time, the act of stealing felt easier, more natural, and even more fulfilling. Andrew was no longer thinking about his future. The bright spark that had once guided him was dimming. At home, his mother noticed the change. She would find money missing from her purse, small items gone from the house, and Andrew became restless, anxious, and defensive whenever she asked him about it. Andrew, what is going on? She asked one evening, noticing that he had come home later than usual. You are not yourself. Andrew didn't know how to answer. I'm fine, Mom. Just tired. I have just got a lot on my mind. The truth was, Andrew wasn't just tired. He was trapped. His stealing escalated. He would snatch things from his classmates' bag, take lunch money, even shoplift from the local market. Soon, word spread. Whisper began to follow him at school. Andrew is stealing. Teachers, friends, and even strangers began to treat him differently. His once perfect academic record started to slip, and the teachers who once praised him now gave him suspicious glance. He could see the disappointment in his mother's eyes, but he couldn't stop. The urge was too strong. One afternoon, as Andrew walked through the market, he picked up a phone that had been carelessly left on the shelf. As he pocketed it, he felt a pair of eyes on him. Turning, he saw Mark Johnson watching him from the corner. Mark said nothing, but the smirk on his face made Andrew's stomach stop. That evening, Andrew was walking home when he was confronted by a group of students who had heard about his theft. Among them was Luke Johnson. They surrounded him, shouted accusations, their face twisted in anger and betrayal. "Thief!" one of them yelled. "You are a disgrace," another shouted. Andrew tried to explain, to tell them that he wasn't a thief, that he had been changed somehow, but his words were drawn out of by the mob. Luke Johnson shoved him against the wall, and in that moment, everything felt like it was crashing down. The crowd had already started to turn violent, and Andrew knew he was in danger. His life almost taken by the anger and frustration of those around him. But just as things seemed to reach a breaking point, Andrew's mom arrived. She had been looking for him, worried when he didn't come home from school. She pushed her way through the crowd, shouting for them to stop. "He isn't a thief, Andrew! He isn't a thief!" she cried. "Someone has done this to him." At that moment, Mark Johnson, who had been silently watching them from the edge of the crowd, couldn't hold it anymore. His jealousy and hatred exploded. He stepped forward and pointed at Andrew. "It was me," Mark said, his voice shaking with a mix of triumph and guilt. "It was me. I put a cost on him. I made him steal. He was too good, too perfect. I couldn't stand it." The crowd fell silent. Everyone turned towards Mark, disbelief written on their faces. I couldn't let him be better than us, Mark continued, his voice cracking. I wanted him to suffer like we did. Andrew's mom, horrified, stepped forward. You use witchcraft? You cursed my son? Mark nodded, hanging his head in shame. Yes, it was my father. It was my father who gave me something to put on him, to turn him into a thief, because he was envious of him. The truth was revealed that day. Mark confessed to his action, telling everybody how he and his dad had used dark magic, something he had learned from his father, to manipulate Andrew's mind. The curse was placed, but effective. Andrew, once a boy full of promise, had been tricked into a life of crime, pushed into a downward spiral of stealing. With the truth out in the open, the authorities were called. Mark and his family were held accountable for their actions, and the neighborhood rallied around Andrew. His mother, though devastated by the truth, forgave her son, knowing that he had been manipulated. Andrew's journey to reclaim his life wasn't easy. It took time, therapy, and the support of those who cared about him. But slowly, he began to rebuild trust that had been shattered. He returned to school, started working very hard again, and with the help of his teachers, began to regain his academic focus. The curse was lifted, and Andrew found his way back to the path he has always wanted to follow. He finished from high school and got admission into the university. He did excellently well, and eventually he became a doctor. His dream was finally fulfilled. The moral lesson of this story is that jealousy and envy destroy lives. Mr. Johnson's envy led him to do something terrible, hurting an innocent boy and his family in the process. Hatred and jealousy never leads to anything good. They only cause destruction. The power of manipulation. Andrew's tragedy shows how easy it is for a vulnerable mind to be manipulated, especially under the influence of somebody with bad intention. We must always be careful of who we trust and who we allow to shape our thoughts and action. The importance of truth, no matter how dark the line may seem, the truth always comes out. In Andrew's case, it was his mother's belief in him and the eventual revelation of Mark's action that allows him to escape the curse and start afresh. Andrew's ability to forgive himself with his mother's love and support allowed him to rise from his fall. Redemption is possible no matter how far one has fallen, as long as there is the will to change. In the end, Andrew became a better person, not because he was perfect, but because he had learned to fight back against the forces that tries to break him. He forgave the past, and with his brilliance, he built a future full of hope and promises. a hand. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel.